We're going to be talking more about Asian Americans and that other movie. I should just talk about the movie. It's not worth watching.
Which one is that?
It's that animated one, and
I slept through that entirely.
so
That's very impressive. I didn't even see the beginning of it.
okay, well, we can hang on to it
Weathering
and
with
watch it again.
you. There we go. I don't
Even
mind
though it's not
watching
worth
things
watching.
again,
But
even
it's
if I didn't watch
the
it the
animation's
first
good. I should say that whoever does the animation, that they did a really great job. It's quite lovely. But I don't watch movies. I really just listen to things. And there's occasionally, if something really catches my interest, I'll look up from whatever I'm doing. But that didn't catch my interest, so I really barely even noticed that the animation was good. So
Yeah, it's got to be good because I'm telling you, I cannot stand that Japanese manga style. I don't care if it's still stuff or film, but it doesn't seem to bother you as much.
well,
It's
you
just-
know, the thing is when you draw people's faces, you realize, wow, it's really difficult to draw noses because they're not a flat part of the face, right? So when you're drawing, you tend to not want to draw them. So I can understand why they really don't draw noses.
Well, it looks as though they draw William Shatner noses. That's after the, I'm sure, what was plastic surgery. Somewhere or another, as he got older, the nose looked a little less bobbed. I got a picture of it from 1955 in a CBC production. It's hilarious. We small little ones. And he comes from a Jewish background, so I suspect he might have had his nose as big as Leonard Nimoy's, who also came from a Jewish background. So, hard to say.
So anyway, Asian Americans. Now I made note of the funding when I watched it. So we were watching it again, fourth time for me, and the last times I was watching it, I was like, geez, I really should make note of who's funding these PBS things and look into, right? So anyway, so I made note of it this time. The Wallace H. Coulter Foundation, Just Films Ford Foundation, National Endowment for the Humanities, the Arthur can't read that, something Davis Foundation, the Freeman Fund, Carnegie Corporation in New York, K Family Foundation, Long Family Fund, Springwing, and California Humanities. So, because these things are important when you're watching something, and you can sense a bias. No, there's always biases, but it's good to know where it's coming from, right? So anyway,
I don't think too many of those foundations have recognizably Oriental names.
I don't know, but anyway,
Carnegie, I think, is Scottish.
We left off with the 65 Immigration Act, and so many Asian people immigrated to the U.S. 80% of immigrants after that were either coming from Latin America or Asia. And
that's since 1965, I think they were saying.
So,
and a guy was crowing about that, and yet at the same time they're saying America's a racist society.
Well, you have to look at.
I want to look at stats.
What is drawing them? What, and essentially, they're talking about the American dream. If you get educated, you'll do well. And is that the American dream? I mean, that's one. You have to wonder about anybody who's the dreamers who are trying to get into the United States, or any country. When people are immigrating, what is drawing them? So, I mean, it's probably not, boy, that's a racist place, I want to go there, or maybe it is, I don't know. But
there are not that many masochists in the world.
But you have to wonder, okay, well, what's drawing them, and what is their dream? They have this perception of what things are like, and they're thinking, oh, this is going to be my, this is going to answer all of my problems. This place is just a miracle place or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what was your perception of things actually realistic? And in the first place, and was your American dream the same as the dreams of Americans that were already there or whatever? And you have to look at these things. Is the American dream, was it get educated and you'll do well, or you like money, come here,
Oh yeah, well,
or
that for
is
the
that the American
majority of people
dream?
is
And
the American
really,
dream. You like money,
is-
it's growing on the trees.
Yeah.
And, for
And
you.
is that really is that going to build a healthy society, or are those people just dreaming when they think that
In
oh,
Technicolor.
I want money, so I'm going to go make lots of money, and that's going to help me climb up the social ladder, and yay, that's what's really going to make a healthy population, is just people striving to climb up that social ladder, rather than, the American dream, as I understood it, was education for all, so that everybody can survive. So it's a place where people, race is not an issue. It's just, are you eager for democracy? Or do you want democracy? And that's not just, yes, I want everyone to think like me. That's, no, you want to have every voice deserves to be heard. Every person deserves to be a person, recognizes, but I understand that not every
group,
not everybody thinks that way. So, anyway, here I am already. I should be reviewing Asian Americans, and I've went off on a tangent. I'm so sorry. So, PBS Asian Americans, episode 1, Generation Rising. Alex Fabros Jr. His dad bought a home in a no Asians area. His family was bullied by neighbors, so dad went to their doors with a handgun, and the family wasn't bullied anymore.
You'll mention to people, someone, like Punk Floyd, or George Floyd, as some people call him, was held a gun to some woman's abdomen. Apparently she wasn't pregnant. He didn't deserve to die. Well, he actually took a fatal overdose of fentanyl, and then topped that off with amphetamines, which apparently doesn't help any dose of fentanyl. Makes it more lethal.
And now James is mixing things, like I would.
No, but what I'm going to say is the argument is the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So yeah, he's getting bullied, but walking around to the neighbors and threatening them with a gun is out of proportion.
Yeah, well, usually, you hear about Americans protecting their property and with a gun. But going to other people's properties with a gun and threatening them that's
a bit much.
That's a little more, right?
And
so anyway,
that should have been called on the show.
Yeah. So
that was an overreaction. The guy had a military background.
Alex Fabros Jr. So anyway, he flunked out of college, so his dad sent him to work at his grandfather's farm to learn how the real world was. So he became a migrant farm worker in California at his grandfather's farm. So it wasn't mentioned what his grandfather's race was, but the show was definitely stressing that, he was a migrant farm worker, and they had such bad worker standards, and not protected by labor laws. And it's like, okay, so your grandfather's farm. That's a long
so the
time
grandfather
ago.
How old was Fabros?
Bad labor laws, not nice to the workers. So anyway,
my granddad, I think this Fabros is older than me. My granddad was born in 1882.
So,
when did this guy get his farm?
Management would get Filipinos and Mexican laborers fighting against each other for the same work to keep the wages low and stuff like that. They created United Farm Workers and won the strike. That's the workers. It was seen as a West Coast civil rights movement. Alex Fabros joined the military and went to Vietnam. After the military, he became a teacher. This episode sucked. That's what I wrote down. They're trying to make it seem like Asian Americans were marching alongside with African Americans for civil rights, which was not the case. I mean, some people were. Some individuals, no matter what the race, actually believed in the American dream. No matter who they were, what race they came from, or whatever their ancestors did.
I can't recall seeing too many yellow faces or people of color yellow faces or whatever the term is, Oriental faces in the marches, Martin Luther King marches. They were there, I suppose.
The episode even ended with an Asian woman rapping.
Oh my God. What is that?
They didn't mention who killed the shop-owning parents of a man interviewed in this episode. But, you know, there's been a long-standing...
Was he black? Was he white? Was he...
So, anyway. Episode 2, Breaking Through, media trying to play up racial tensions between blacks and Koreans by reporting when black robbers kill Korean shop owners. It's like, what, so you shouldn't report it? Because it's racist to report that it's happening?
When you look at this stuff, I was going, how is this materially different from Kristallnacht? And this happens again and again and again. I'm part African American ancestry, North American ancestry, or so I think. And the deal is, that's from my dad. The deal is, when people of your own ancestry are being bad, you gotta call it. You know, so I've got a little bit of German, and Kristallnacht is shameful. The only uses of N-word that I've run across in here in Canada have been people. One guy, was one guy who was second generation German, and the other guy used the jungle you-know-what thing. He was actually, I think, first generation German. He had no real accent. I think he came from a Catholic background, went to Catholic Central High School here in town, and those are the only cases that I've run across. So there's a problem with German stuff, but there's a problem when it comes to African Americans and Koreans and Jews. We'll be talking about Jews later.
Okay,
today
but I will talk about. I'm going to say that with people who believe in capitalism, capitalists, not all, but if you want to exploit other people to make money, it's doable, right? In a capitalist system, the money's going to come from someone. There's sellers, there's buyers, and so I mean, if the people who are being exploited, oftentimes they see who's exploiting them, and is it a surprise when they lash back? Anyway,
but there's shopkeepers. Here's though what someone wrote about capitalists.
Okay.
When they are single capitalists, the people they exploit are themselves.
I know.
So they work over. It's the Koreans do not deserve anything like they're getting their shops burned down and stuff like that.
No, and a lot of the time it's like with...
I know you weren't saying that. But,
no, I'm not saying that. But I can understand. Like in a system, it's the lower management or people working... like if you're working in a system where there's a whole lot of management people above you, well, the boss that's telling you... do that work is the one that you're going to blame for you doing the work and hating your job and hurting and whatever. They're the person that you see. So somehow the management who are telling them, get them to do the work or else, you don't even notice, right? The worker doesn't even think of them as being anyway. So if that makes any sense. Anyway, woman escaped from communist China with 5 kids and was thankful to come to America. One of her grandsons ended up very successful with Yahoo. 40% of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs were Asian, and many of the world workers doing piecework were Asians.
So there's Asians
who were being
Asians
exploited
by other Asians.
Yeah. So anchor kids, they're born in the U.S. to illegal immigrants in the U.S. And dreamers, I hadn't heard of this or until this thing, which I didn't know what it was though. Had brought dreamers were brought in illegally as children by illegal immigrants, and then the Dream Act was to fast track these people for U.S. citizenship, but it was canceled. And honestly, I'd have to say, good. It should be canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go through proper channels to get immigration. And honestly, if you are a legal immigrant and you know that there's illegal immigrants around you and you're not calling them out as such, you don't believe in being a citizen of wherever you're at. You have to encourage people to actually get legal citizenship.
I wouldn't be interested in Irish people coming over here. I don't want the IRA or orange, radical orange guys over here. I don't want them soiling the image of Irish people. It's already been pretty soiled, you know?
Yeah.
I don't see where people, from Latin America want to defend this sort of behavior. It is criminal activity. Mm-hmm. You should not be sneaking into a country. If you can't get into a country because it's so racist, it's not worth your while to be there. Now, I don't think that applies to the United States. It doesn't apply to Canada. It doesn't apply to much of Western Europe.
I mean, I don't know. It can be very difficult to go through proper bureaucratic channels to do anything. And sometimes it might seem easier to just circumvent that, but it's not right.
If we want to handle refugees from Guatemala or Honduras, try to set it up so that it is doable. In other words, most other countries in the world, when they get a refugee in, it's understood that refugee is going back to where they came from when things settle down. Yeah. And that's the way it should be in Europe and Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and the democracies. Refugees go back. They are not allowed to mix with citizens or people who are on track to be citizens. They should be, some of them should be tracked to be citizens if they have shown some degree of support for democracy. Well,
I don't think they should be tracked to be citizens. I think the whole citizenship thing needs to change because, or we risk losing everything. And there's so many more people will die if they don't do this. People need to look at citizenship for their children. So you want your children to have a better life, then you apply for a work visa in a place, and then you're tracked. Are you law-abiding and this and that? And do you seem to really want to be an American or a Canadian or a whatever? Whatever fits, and if it does, then your children will be able to get citizenship. They can apply for. But I don't see why. Like, it's going the wrong way. You have anchor children and dreamers, and then the parents are able to stay. How is that? It does not make sense. So anyway,
and then
there was
there's
this
chain citizenship.
Yeah.
You can
to
support
bring
your
family
parents
over
and grandparents.
and whatever, they should apply too. So anyway, Ansar was taking pictures of the Hudson Valley landscape from on the grounds of a water treatment facility. And
have you ever been to a water treatment facility?
Suspected of being a terrorist. Like, duh, of course. And
he had to get behind a fence to get in there.
Yeah.
It was something scenic, I think, on the Hudson River.
Went in, so he knew he was somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be when he was there.
I was taking pictures. Ansar, buddy.
For his family back home, and it's like, oh yeah.
Ansar, buddy, I know you, buddy.
He doesn't actually know him.
Well,
and what James is trying to say is it seems pretty obvious that you were a terrorist. Taking pictures for your family back home, water treatment facility, come on. I mean, the only reason why they would have released Ansar at all was to track him, to find out who he knows so that they can try to circumvent any terrorist activities from Ansar's family back home. Ridiculous. So, anyway, you want to talk more about that, or?
Not really. Man, oh man. They should know better on a show like this. Ansar was behaving very, very suspiciously. If you look at what he was filming, it's scenic. You don't get behind a fence to film something scenic. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Or you expect that you don't be all surprised, like, oh, why would I get in trouble for doing illegal things at a water treatment facility?
He's lucky he didn't get the book thrown in
So,
the encyclopedia.
anyway,
I just hope when they released him that he
and honestly,
led them to a lot
anybody
of
who
it
knows
blunt and
Ansar,
terror.
anybody who, any family member, anyone that's friends with him, anyone, they're now, if they haven't said, "Geesh, Ansar, you really put the law's eyes on us for thanks a lot, Ansar, buddy," you know, if they're not saying that, they should be suspected of criminal activities too. Because why wouldn't you? If you have a family member who's acting like that, if you have somebody who is illegal and they're trying to associate you with illegal stuff, well, that you should be upset with them. It makes sense for you to be. I would be if I had a family member who say they went and robbed a bank or something, and somehow they show up on my doorstep and they're all buddy with me. I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're trying to get me in trouble now. I like you even less, right? Like, anyway.